Yo, what's going on, Geek Corner? This is your boy, Earth Mac, the Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Orange Phoenix Media channel. And just like I told you, we have a good bit of interviews coming up in 2025 and 2026, and this one I consider one of a very special interview, and I was very surprised that I got a quicker response than I got. But this individual, especially if you are a moviegoer, has notable works such as Logan, Interstellar, Ford versus Ferrari, Tropic Thunder, Austin Powers, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, The Call of the Wind, Dawn of Planet of the Apes, Inception, Land of the Lost, X-Men Last Stand, X2, X-Men United, which is my favorite X-Men. And he also has his hands in the comic book realm as well. And the most recent comic book, especially the one I've picked up, and I read a record 5 times, is Batman, Green Arrow, and Question Arcadia. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Gabriel Hardman. How are you today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. That was a very complete list of my movie credits there. But I got to say, I'm a storyboarder. I mean, most people don't go into every one of them, but I appreciate it that you did.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, the first thing we're gonna talk about is the reason why you're here is especially talking about Batman, Green Arrow, and the Question Arcadia. What's
Yes.
funny is that I have a Saturday morning show called Saturday Morning Comics, and usually I'll at the end of the show I would say, "Hey, these are upcoming comics you're gonna look for," and I would say by accident I was like, "Oh, wait, like what is this?" And I saw the
Hmm.
front cover, and first of all, I love the art style, and I like, yo, this is Batman, Green Arrow, Question Arcadia. I'm definitely getting this book whenever it drops, and when it drops, I bought it day one,
Great.
digital and physical, and
Oh, well, thanks.
and read it 5 times. So, what got you to that point of writing Batman, Green Arrow, and Arcadia? What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, I mean, it's something that I was a big fan of the Denny O'Neil, Dennis Cowan Question run from the late '80s. I was a big fan of the Green Arrow books of around that time. This is when I was like a young teenager, and
Yeah.
so they were kind of seminal things for me. And I thought, I'd always liked they were very grounded books, and not and that kind of excluded all the fantastical superhero stuff from the world, and just focused on kind of grounded real world ish stories, and I'd always liked that feel. A couple of years ago I'd picked up the an omnibus of that question run, and there's a Fables annuals crossover in it where Batman, Green Arrow, and the Question meet up. And even though I love I love all those books. I was a big fan of all that stuff. But in rereading it, I felt a little bit like that. I don't know. I wanted these characters to interact a bit more because they were off in their individual annuals and they only kind of interacted in a limited way. The story only interacted in limited ways, and I just thought I would love to do a book that featured these 3 characters that had a kind of focusedly intense story where they all had to interact with each other, where they all they're all street level characters, but they're all coming from different ideological places. And it's a black label book, so that means I'm able to tell the story in a way that's not as indebted to the continuity. Like I can kind of craft the exact versions of these characters as long as I start from a recognizable point. So that gives me the chance to tell a story with an arc to it, where Batman starts one place and ends up another place, and it doesn't have to just be along with all the other characters, and it doesn't have to just be don't break the toys and put them back where you found them sort of situation. I can break the toys if I want. Maybe I will over the course of this.
So that gets me excited. And one thing I've noticed, like especially with comic book artists, they have a distinct art style that just before you even see the name in the marquee, you're like, oh, that's this person. I look at your artwork and I say the same thing.
Well, thank
And
you.
so I just started Invisible Republic.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, yep, I know this art style. And the one thing I know about, especially with this cover here of the Batman Green Arrow Arcadia one, is the bat suit, and I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the '89 Batman. So it
Hmm.
kind of gives me a memory of that. Is that what you was going for
Well,
when you
certainly,
made this?
I like that. I mean, I actually particularly like that suit from Batman Returns, but
Mm-hmm.
that's a slightly more deco-y looking suit.
Yeah,
But definitely going to the yellow and black symbol, the round symbol on his chest, as opposed to like you know the you know the simple one that's just on his chest, that the without the yellow. I like. I mean, I wanted a little bit of a sense of, things that visually remind you of the '80s, the past, the stuff
yeah.
that that inspired me about it. While even though the story itself is very contemporary, it's I just felt like I want little cues to say, oh, but there's references to the past in here, and I also just wanted a version of the bat suit that was iconic. It made sense. It's Batman, but it also is a little bit different than the other ones that are on the stand. So going back to something that is that people don't use as much anymore was part of that.
And at an '80s baby, because I was born in '85,
Yeah.
believe it or not, greatly appreciate that the bat suit because my favorite Batman movies are Batman and Batman Returns, and I stand on the hill of Batman Returns being a Christmas movie. So
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, it's set at Christmas. I mean, it came out in the summer, but yeah, it's set at Christmas, and it's. I mean,
yeah,
I like that movie. The movie doesn't ultimately make loads of sense in a certain in a plotty sort of way, but it
yeah,
has characters and it has themes and it works with those themes, and and I think that and a lot of you know beautifully designed stuff in it too. Just a great movie to look at. But no, I enjoy those movies. I think and and certainly, even though there's, I mean, my book is way more kind of a real world feeling thing rather than the kind of stylized world of of those two Tim Burton movies. Particularly, I love the production design by Bo Welch, who's somebody I'd worked with quite a bit in the past. On even though Batman, those Batman movies came out before I worked in movies. I mean, I was still a teenager, but I mean, I did find some inspiration certainly for the suit in those.
and you know what's funny is that my introduction to the question was Justice League Unlimited, and that
Sure,
was my
I think that's
introduction to
a
him.
lot of people is that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, and so just by the way he was speaking, and when I saw him on screen, the first person I thought about immediately was Batman. That's the
Hmm.
first person I'm like, man, I would love to see these two interact with each other because
Yeah.
they kind of sort of in the same vein. And
Hmm.
there was one part in the book, especially issue 1, where he called Green Arrow, and Green Arrow's like, oh god. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hang up the phone. He's like, nope,
Yeah.
don't hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Like, don't hang up the phone. I got something for you. That kind
Yeah,
of thing. And I
these
think,
people don't. Yeah, they don't want. These people don't want to be hanging out together. Like
yeah,
they're not. They're not like they're not pals. I mean, they'll maybe get to a place that's better, and maybe not. Over the course of this, but but absolutely, like Green Arrow doesn't want to hear from this guy. Green Arrow isn't
yeah.
even sure that this guy still like exists or is around anymore, and it's not a welcome call.
Exactly, and it kind of got like that too in Justice League Unlimited. Whenever the question called someone, they had that same reaction. It was like, I gotta
Yeah,
work with this guy,
yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
But you don't want to dive too much into the comic because I really want you as Geek Corner members and watchers and listeners to actually go out and get this book and support this book. And also, when I was reading this book, I'm very visual, and sometimes if I'm reading a book and I'm into it, it's certain types of music that plays in my head, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there was a certain scene where Batman was in the jungle and he was flying through, and there was like this late '70s, early '80s type of beat that was going in my head,
Mm-hmm.
like Shaft in a way, kind of like, man, because the imagery, like the imagery of the book, just screams like late '70s, early '80s,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
I do love that art style for the book. and I know I don't want to jump too much into it, and this is not really a spoiler per se, but I will say that, like, this particular scene right here,
Yeah.
and that really will kind of had that 70s music kind of like playing in my head. I'm like, oh man, I see where you're going with this. I see where you're going with this. And so is this going to be like a mini series, correct?
Yeah, it's a 4 issue miniseries, so they're four 32-page issues. So it'll be collected into graphic novel, trade, well, hardback actually in the summer. So like in
Mm-hmm.
July. So yeah, and it'll be like kind of a 120-page book that can sit on a shelf.
Yeah, that would be an instant buy as well. You don't have like the single issues. Is there a possibility, because especially if there's enough fan base towards this and love to it, is there a possibility for this could be like its own ongoing series with these three?
I think it could definitely, be a series of miniseries. Like I'd be, I'm by the end of this, I'm setting up things that that could. I mean, it will be a complete story. It's not just going
Mm-hmm.
to end on a cliffhanger, but like it, but it's. I'm definitely setting up things that could go places in the next one, and big shifts for these characters that big things that could have real repercussions for them afterwards. And so I love exploring conflict between the characters, and that's and so coming back to you know develop that further and follow up on on how everything falls out in this book. I'd love to do that. It's something that my editor and I have talked about a little bit, and it's just a question of how how it sells and how it does. And but I definitely love to continue and do more of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I like I said, I've been enjoying the book, enjoying the story, like, and I do like the grounded nature of it, and also it, the movie doesn't pop in my head right at this moment, but matter of fact, I think about Snatch, the movie Snatch with
Okay.
yeah, so with Brad
Yeah.
Pitt, where
Sure.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
takes
Yeah.
take different perspective, but you all kind of meet in this one point, and
Hmm.
that's basically how I felt when I read this book, because it's like it's three different scenarios, but you got a common enemy, but you're taking three different approaches to it, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna meet in the middle about this, and then
Right.
every
And
everything
yeah,
gonna come to a head.
and the different. I mean, the different approaches that they navigate through the first issue are that's also about just where they come, where they're individually coming from, where and what kind of and the way they approach solving a problem, solving a mystery, whatever, like, and Green Arrow's not in a great place at the beginning of this, right? He's like
No.
kind of, he's moved back to his hometown of Star City. It's a kind of gentrified now, a sort of gentrified city that like where people feel like they don't need somebody, they don't need somebody going around shooting arrows at people in the street, and
Yeah.
like, and he, even though certainly that's something that I would like to explore further, like some of these, the cities where they came from. I mean, this book is probably going to take them other places, but in the second volume of it, I'd love to kind of more explore these individual cities where they come from. But he's like wearing his costume to bars and like shooting trick arrows for drinks and stuff, so like just looking for some way to connect or get like, or not just running away from things. And so like his he's very reluctantly getting into all of this again, and but he has to. It's who he is, and it's it's where he has to go, and hopefully things work out well for him over the course of this book, but I'm not so sure they will.
That was a teaser, folks. That's what that was. That was a teaser. That scene at the bar. There's this one small detail that I did see, and I was like, oh yeah, he's not 100%. And it's kind of like that introduction of him,
Yeah.
and I took a second read, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what he's trying to say. I like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I see where he's
absolutely,
going.
absolutely. And I'm always look. I just always I like. I don't like. Uh, just characters telling you everything that's going on with them, or or just exposition driving everything, or people blurting out what's going on. Like, I want to show it through their actions. I want to
Yeah.
show where they are, where they're coming from psychologically and everything, how through behavior. And I don't know, that's what excites me about stuff. And it engages the reader. Like, you gotta, you're coming at it and you know have to ask what's being said with these characters in a scene, not just have it blurted out at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love stories like that. Because when I saw the cover of the book, and I'm just a sucker for like bookstores and comic book stores, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I tell my fiance all the time, like, listen, I have to stay away from the comic book stores and
yeah.
bookstores because
Oh,
if it
sure.
looks
Yeah,
good, I'm buying.
yeah.
So,
No, I
uh,
understand. I
yeah.
went to
So,
I went to a bookstore today, did not buy anything, and was incredibly proud of myself. So,
man, you are a rare gem. You're a real gem because I can't say that today. I'm a big physical media type of
oh, me
person.
too.
Like,
Me too. Yes.
yeah. So if because I went to like this old school gaming store, right? And I wanted to get two Dreamcast controllers.
Yeah.
Because my fiance's kid is coming in. And so he said, "Oh yeah, we got this DVD section in the back, and it's like this wide room back here, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I
Hmm.
just thought that was you guys' office."
Yeah.
And so I go back there, and I see a lot of collector's editions, and
Hmm.
I saw Terminator 2 and Serenity, and I was like, yeah, I'm in the wrong place."
Yeah, I love physical media. I mean, I think, I'm a huge movie fan, right? And
Hmm.
I want to have I don't want to depend on some streaming service to maybe or maybe not have things that I want to watch. Certainly the
Yeah,
things that I want to go back to a lot. So, like, I'm always buying, Blu-rays, 4K now, and I buy physical books, I buy physical comics, I buy physical, especially physical collections of comics,
yeah,
I'm not against digital stuff. I'll read stuff digitally as well, and honestly, I'm like an old man. I buy vinyl records and stuff too. So, but like, I just don't. I don't want to be at the whim of somebody else about, I want to have those things that are inspiring to me, so that, like, I could put on, uh, you know, Seven Samurai or whatever,
yeah.
especially working in creative work, and telling stories, and wanting to be able to kind of like revisit things that might be a spark for a story, or something. I mean, like, I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to go, oh, that's just not available anymore.
Absolutely. And what's funny about it is the name escapes me of this movie, but it is a Netflix movie where by the end of this movie there was this little girl and she had this huge DVD collection
Hmm.
and all she wanted to do is watch Friends. That's it.
Right,
Just watch
right.
Friends. And she had the collector's edition. Everything else outside of that room or outside
Yeah,
of that house was just going to crap. So
right,
oh,
right, right.
I was like, that's me right there. Cause I'm like,
Yeah,
that's why I want physical media.
yeah, yeah,
And life imitates art. So, well, art imitates life, that kind of thing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
speaking of movies, how did you get into being a storyboard artist for these various movies?
Well, I mean, since you mentioned Austin Powers, it was obviously a long time ago that I got into this. So, like, I was 22 when I got into boarding movies. I actually had a short career in comics before that, like starting when I was
Mm,
18. I did some work under another name, and I drew War Machine for Marvel and a couple other things. And but that was mid 90s, and the comics industry went, through this kind of bubble where Death of Superman and all of the variant covers and all that sort of stuff, collapsed on everybody, and everybody was out of work, and I had just moved out to Los Angeles, and I had the idea that, I'm a big movie person, and I had the idea that, well, I could be a storyboard artist for movies. Maybe that makes sense, and even though I've always been really passionate about making comics. And basically, I just went around telling everybody that that's what I was going to do, and made no real effort to do it. But I just until I ran into some guy at a book signing, just in line at a book signing, and he asked me what I did, and I said, "Well, I make comics, but I want to do storyboards." And he was like, "Oh, well, I know an agent who represents storyboards," and I ended up getting a referral to that agent. That agent got me my first couple of gigs. I only kept the agent for like a year. I didn't really need him after that, and haven't had one since. But like for getting the first couple gigs on commercials and stuff like that before I got into to the movie work. So like it was kind of a thing where I just told I just kept telling people it was what I was going to do. I didn't even have any samples to show to the agent. I brought in some of the comic stuff, but really, the night before the meeting with him, I just stayed up and and bluffed my way through an action sequence that I just made up and drew that night and brought in the next day as if that was my portfolio. And people bought it, and so I and then I just kind of faked my way through a lot. Although I'd read a lot of books. I mean, I'm a huge Alfred Hitchcock fan. There's this book called Hitchcock Truffaut that's an interview book with Hitchcock, and I learned a lot about visual storytelling from that. And visual storytelling is like my thing, across everything, because like that's what storyboards are. I mean, I'm a storyboard artist in movies primarily, and it's about how do we tell this story effectively visually, and that's what I do in comics as well. Although I mean I write and draw comics, and it's the whole package. In comics, I'm the one. I'm doing it because I'm passionate about that story. When I
Yeah.
work on films, I'm working on somebody else's film, somebody else's story. But I have certainly had a lot of a good amount of I work with the director. I've increasingly become somebody who people go to, and I'm known for being able to kind of craft sequences and invent stuff and come up with ideas and pitch them and all that sort of stuff. So for action sequences or not action sequences, for pretty much anything. But yeah, storytelling is kind of like my thing, right? Like people think of me as a good visual storyteller and a good storyteller, and that's kind of the core of what interests me in all this.
So, which one was your favorite movie to work on as far as a storyboard
It's
artist?
tough. I mean, because
Or do you have a top five?
well, I mean, there are movie. No, I don't have a top five really, but because it's just a lot different. The experience of working on a movie is a lot different from the
Mhm.
final product of a movie. And but I've had I've had really positive experiences working with James Mangold on Logan and Ford versus Ferrari and Indiana Jones and A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie, and and I've worked a lot with him. I recently did a movie that is coming out next year that I can't talk about because it doesn't even have a name yet.
Mhm.
But it's a big movie with one of I think the greatest directors of all time, and and I'm excited for that. Inception was a good experience for me because it was the first time working with Christopher Nolan, and it was so many movies are in the era that I've worked in them are just based on other properties. They're sequels. They're whatever sequels to superhero movies. And Inception was an original script, and it was an original project. And so getting the chance to work on something like that was really good for me, particularly at that time when I had just been through the ringer with multiple kind of superhero sequels that weren't necessarily great films.
Yeah, and I did see Interstellar was one of the one of your works in
Yeah.
IMDb, and it's funny because I've seen Interstellar for the first time this year,
Okay. Yeah.
and I was completely blown away, like completely
Good.
blown
Yeah.
away. And I mean, everyone was telling me how great the movie was, and I don't know how this movie just zoom past me, especially as many movies that I've watched or wanted to watch or
Sure.
anything
Yeah.
like that. Well, I'm like, man, I wish I would have saw this in movie theaters because it would have completely blown me away.
Yeah, I mean, I think that his movies are definitely made to be seen in theaters, and Nolan's movies, and
Hmm.
like that's what he pushes for. He's all about shooting on film and distributing in theaters, and and making movies with spectacle to them. I mean, and I did those three movies with him, and that was fine, and that was good. And I tend to like work with a director for a period of time and then work with another director for a period of time. But all of it is kind of balanced out with the comics work because like I have to kind of I take a certain amount of movie work and I have to like set I have to juggle a lot, but for me it's important to do all of it because that it's I don't get you can get into a thing where you're just kind of killing yourself working on movies, and especially if you
Yeah.
work nonstop all the time on them. So I'll doing a certain amount of work through the year on a movie, which is very intense, and you're very like you're part of a team and you're dealing with everybody all the time, and then being able to step back and do the comics work, which is me writing a script by myself, me drawing it by myself, me like doing something, even though I have great collaborators, I'm still primarily, doing the work myself. And it's a lot more like, it's the quiet stay at home version of things, even though technically I've not left home to work on a movie in years now. Like, I certainly, even before the pandemic, I was like, I don't want to go to the art department anymore. And I was working from home anyway, but
Hmm.
you're still very involved with everybody, especially, like via Zoom or whatever. And comics are a much more isolated thing, but I like that. So both versions are good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know we spoke on Christopher Nolan. I think between him and Ryan Coogler, they're I call them like film geeks, and just
Yeah,
by and I look at Ryan Coogler and how he explains his latest movie Sinners and
yeah,
the aspect ratio and how it's better seen this way and this light. And and if I see those names on the marquee or they had something to do with this particular movie, I'm making a beeline,
yeah,
to the movie
sure.
theater and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, they
um,
care about they care about people seeing the movie the way that it should be seen, and
yeah,
that, that's, I mean, it's rough. Like movies are in a bad place, and and like theatrical is in a bad place,
yeah,
and it's sad for me. I live in Los Angeles, and and uh, it's almost easier here to see like movies from the 70s or movies from the 40s or movies from the 30s in the theaters like in revival screenings than it is to like go to regular movies. I end up going to old movies more than I go to new movies just because like they're the what's offered is limited. They're in theaters for a very short period of time. And because the theatrical windows shrunk and shrunk since the pandemic, and
yes,
it just I think that that it's I mean I hope that there's some way that movies can come back. Movies have been dead before, and come back over the years, but who knows? I mean, I don't know, but it is something that's it's really important to me to the theatrical experience of stuff, and so I do like I like that I've worked with people who are passionate about that.
oh yeah, absolutely. I think this whole Warner Brothers, Paramount slash Netflix thing is got a lot of people, in
Yeah,
disarray.
it's bad. I mean, it's just a bad thing no matter what. I don't know why Warner Brothers is even for sale, but and I'm
Yeah,
not sure anybody has an explanation for that. But no matter what, selling a big media company to another big media company is not, that's a monopoly. That's not a positive thing,
yeah,
and it's also just you know it's narrowing the kind of films that are going to be made, right? Like you get the kinds of things that Netflix is going to make. I think we already know the kinds of things that they're going to make, and so and I don't think that's necessarily a positive. There's not a lot of great Netflix movies, and I there's a kind of, I mean, the fact that movies get more and more expensive, but they don't necessarily look better, or like they're or have have better production value to them, or craft to them, is sad. And I mean, I think I don't. We're already in a difficult spot. I think that something like a giant merger like that is going to be a really negative thing for the industry and for
Yeah,
everybody, just for for the diversity of the kind of things that we get to watch.
absolutely, absolutely. And switching gears back to the comic book writing realm, is there any particular character that you haven't written about that you would like to write about?
Yeah, I mean, there are I think that I mean, there's probably characters or books that I would that I it wouldn't occur to me that I would be good at, but I do like to this particular one is a little different for me in that I loved these characters, and I loved the kind of feel that I'm bringing to this, and so, but I think but in the past I also try to approach things like I did these Green Lantern Earth One comics for DC, and which is a slightly kind of like a re-envisioning of the characters. And I was never the hugest Green Lantern fan necessarily. I mean, I liked the character. I read it growing up. I've always liked Green Lantern, but like it just kind of like it was more that I had a story that I wanted to tell with that. That
Mm-hmm.
it was just being in love with the characters. That said, I like, you know, probably I wish I could tell everybody that I want to do the most popular characters and whatever, but in reality, what I want to do is, I mean, I think that I could do a Hawkman story. Like that's because no one thinks that that can work, right? Like everybody thinks that that character can't work, and and like, but I would like to do a kind of sci-fi-ish Hawkman story. I'd like to do. I think I would like to do a Doom Patrol story. I would. I'd like to. I mean, the most popular thing probably is Spider-Man at Marvel, because I've just loved that character forever. I've never gotten the chance to work on Spider-Man at all in
Wow.
comics, and I would love to write and draw a Spider-Man story. But and then also there are just personal projects that creator owned projects that are the thing that I want to do the most. It's but right now is a tough time for those books. And but that said, when I get through this, when this book is finished up, and I have another couple of freelance projects that are going to come out, and after that I'm wrapping up. I'm going to really focus on these couple of creator-owned books and getting them out there one way or the other. So, like, there are definitely things that would be fun to me and exciting to me to do. I mean, another thing that I would like is to do a kind of Batman team-up book, right?
Yeah.
Like Brave and the Bold, like to be able to bring in different characters and have have them play off each other. Or just a team up book in general. The better team up book to me would be one where there isn't one single character and we meet new people all the time, meeting each other. No one will ever go for that. But
Yeah.
but like I've always liked. I mean, that's part of what I'm doing in Arcadia. I like putting the different characters coming from different places together and seeing how they interact and how they conflict and how they what they have in common.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned Green Lantern Earth One. Now that book I haven't read yet, but the cover like immediately grabbed me, and I'm like, man, how did this go past me? I don't understand.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
again, me being a visual person, right? And I'm looking at this, and me being a movie person, I think about Alien. And,
Yeah. Yeah,
so I was
that
like,
came up a lot with the. I mean, and I mean, it's a little bit of an influence on that. I love Alien. I'm a huge fan. I actually just went to see Alien again at the Academy Museum here, which has
wow,
an enormous, beautiful theater in it, where with like great, great projection and sound. It was actually a film print of the original Alien, and
Wow. Okay.
it was great. It's and in a huge full theater, with everybody reacting to it and everything. It's a great experience. I love those movies, but
Mm.
like it was a very much like, I want to put this, I want to, I always want to take characters that, if that character feels like they're impossibly powerful or whatever, put them in circumstances where there's risk for them. Where is that, I mean, and so making in that book, Hal Jordan is initially is an astronaut. He's in a, a for-profit sort of thing where they like go to asteroids trying to mine for precious metals for cell phones or whatever. It's set slightly in the future, and so like, the way that he gets the ring, the situation that it puts him in, I wanted to feel scary. I wanted you to not feel like, oh, this guy can just take off and fly around space and everything's fine, right? Like I want to find the ways that it's precarious and scary to be out in space and to be, and you're relying just on this one thing, on the ring, and if you lose it, you could die, like, so that kind of that the kind of horror-ish stuff, the alien type stuff, played into that for me.
Oh man. See, I always am a strong proponent of that leading to better storytelling, especially if there's like a uber powerful character, put him in a weak situation. And recently I went to a comic book convention in Greenville, South Carolina, and I found Superman versus Alien
Yeah,
because even though, Superman is like, the most powerful superhero, it never really appealed to me
yeah,
based off of that.
yeah.
And then, I always felt like Doomsday was like one of the best storylines for him because he's vulnerable. He actually dies in that. And
Yeah, I mean,
and
yeah, totally. I mean, I think Superman's interesting that way. Like, I worked on a Superman, like on that kind of, quasi, sequel to the Christopher Reeve movie, Superman Returns, with Bryan Singer. That didn't, I don't think the movie worked, but like working on that, it's very clear that it's kind of hard to put Superman in circumstances where, where it feels like there are stakes. But
mhm.
I have a Superman story that is, I guess it's an Elseworld story. Although when I pitched it as an Elseworld story, they told me it wasn't. So I don't know. Like, but it's a slightly different, different version of Superman, and or different origin for him. And and I would just love to. I think there are ways to tell Superman stories that aren't, where the conflict is just something that isn't something he can punch his way out of. I mean,
Yeah.
like, and you could be that powerful, but that doesn't mean you can control everything. And I guess now that I'm saying all of this, I guess Superman would be a character I'd really like to tackle. So and I have actually tried to pitch Superman stuff before. It's because it also feels a little bit like, I don't know if people think of my kind of grimy looking art as a Superman kind of thing, but but there is something that I do really like in that character that often doesn't work, right? Like I think that but listen, like I like challenges. I like,
Yeah.
I like a challenge, in a storytelling challenge. I don't want to just show up and go, and then what's the next thing that happened to this character in continuity, and they're basically in the same spot. I want,
Yeah.
I want stuff that, that sounds difficult to accomplish. Like that's the exciting part.
Yeah.
And
And
maybe I
I know
won't
you.
succeed. Maybe I'll fall on my face. But that's what, that's how you, I feel like that's how you have to approach things creatively.
Yeah, you never know till you actually do it.
Yeah.
You never know how things get received. I know you mentioned Spider Man, and I wouldn't say this is my first introduction to Spider Man, but as a kid, my first graphic novel from Spider Man was Revenge of the Sinister Six,
Okay.
and I love that art style with it, and I feel like your art style can work, especially the story that you would try to convey to us as a reader, because just by reading Arcadia, and I'm on issue number 2. I'm on halfway through issue number 2 of Invisible Republic, there's different reveals and different avenues to actually kind of like navigate through the story. And I was like, oh man, this is actually kind of noir ish because
Yeah,
I am
yeah.
a sucker for that too.
Yeah, and I mean one of the creator-owned comics that I want to do, one of my personal comics that I want to do is a straight up noir 1940s comic that I've been working on called Below the Line. It's set in Hollywood in 1947, and that's and noir is kind of my thing, and I'm
Yeah.
probably I'll end up bringing that feel to to stuff, right, intentionally or not. So, and but I've never really done just a straightforward crime book like that. So that's really the thing that I want to, a crime book that doesn't have superheroes or doesn't have whatever, and so my hope is that I can get that book, whether it's a Kickstarter or whether it's an image book. I'm not really sure yet. I really like to. My preference for doing creator owned stuff is to do a whole bunch of the work before I even approach a publisher or anything, because
Yeah.
I want to. I mean, I also just want to make sure that the book that comes out isn't the book that's been meddled with by somebody or something. And but but yeah, I love noir stuff. So it's
Oh yeah.
not, it shouldn't be a surprise that's I mean, and that fits with my art style, right? I mean, there are some people
Yes.
who
Yeah.
have a kind of style that lends itself to darker things or whatever, but they personally aren't interested in stories like that, and I
Yeah.
know artists like that, who kind of draw darker looking stuff, but they don't personally love that. They like upbeat, kid stories or whatever, right? And
Hmm.
but for me, it's these things that kind of go together. I have kind of I have a darker storytelling sensibility, and it fits with the tone of my art, and so I feel like that's that's not
Oh
so bad.
yeah.
But I still would. I'd love to do a Superman story. I would love to. I do like the kind of optimistic part of Superman, and but I do. I don't think. I think I could, I could get to that in some interesting way, though.
Yeah. Or like, I'm just throwing ideas out there. Since Clark is an investigative reporter on the flip side of things, I mean, yeah, he's Superman, underneath, but
Yeah.
it could be one of those challenges that, Lois challenges him to, hey, oh, well, how about you do this without your powers and see how you fare? See you
Yeah,
just as good as me.
I mean,
That kind of thing.
I mean, I'd like to put him in a circumstance where you have to, and or just where the reporter part of it is important, like that's a real serious part of the story, that because that just doesn't, that falls by the wayside a lot for
Yeah.
Superman.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know you're definitely a fan of film and in the comic book industry. There's two more questions I have for you. As far as outside of being the writer and the artist, just from a reader standpoint, from a fan standpoint, what would you consider your favorite comics to read that actually got kind of like put you into the vein? Like, you know what, I wanna actually do this. I wanna actually be a writer.
Well, I mean, one of the things that you know, one of the books that inspires me is the 19. This is before my time, but it's stuff that I've gone back and found. The '70s Tomb of Dracula comics from Marvel, right? Like Gene Colan
Yeah.
drew them. Marv Wolfman wrote them. I went through and I reread all of them recently. I've been doing this thing where like I've been reading long runs of comics lately. I read everything, the X-Men from the beginning in the 60s through the early 90s this year, like a lot of comics. And
Wow.
but like Tomb of Dracula is something that inspires me. Swamp Thing, the Alan Moore Swamp Thing, as well as the Len Wein Bernie Wrightson Swamp Things. The Swamp Thing's a character that, in theory, I would like to do, but I almost feel like a lot has been done with Swamp Thing that I don't know what I have to say with the character, but I'm a huge fan of the Doom Patrol of like the 1960s Doom Patrol was drawn by this guy Bruno Premiani. I have a original page of him right next to me right now, but on the wall. But like I loved his art. The stories by Arnold Drake are crazy. But then I'm a fan of the Grant Morrison Richard Case Doom Patrol from the '80s as well.
Mm-hmm.
And and like I say, for real, the question, the Denny O'Neil question series from the '80s is something that's really important to me. And there's plenty of other stuff there. I mean, and like that's not occurring to me right now, and there are tons of comics that have had huge influence on me. But yeah, I mean, comics wise, something that I'd recommend for people. Go back and read that the question, the Denny O'Neil, Dennis Cowan question, and Tomb of Dracula. Those are the things that I say.
Oh man. Okay. So now we got the comic side of it, but as far as the movie or TV series side of it, what made you want to jump into that realm of that side of things, or what brought you into that?
I
Being a fan of that.
Yeah, I mean, I like from really early on, I started to get into older movies and like, or just a broad spectrum of movies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I read a lot about them. I was like, in the days of VHS when I was growing up, at a certain point, like in high school, I would just go by the video rental place and like get a new movie every day. And like, I was kind of voracious about like watching movies, but kind of trying to understand how they're made and stuff as well. So it was like being a fan of movies is kind of like above and beyond me working in movies, and I'm certainly like I'm not a fan of any of the movies I've worked on the way I am a fan of movies that were important to me. What should wait? Am I answering what specific movies have been influential for me, or am I answering the question? What?
Yeah. Yeah. You are. I mean, no condensed. I will guess. Well, which would be a leader question, leading to another one. Well, your favorites, like some of your
Right.
favorite.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's difficult to come up with favorites, but if I had to just
Mm-hmm.
sort of pick things, I think I mentioned it earlier here, but Akira Kurosawa's The Seven Samurai it's a super long movie. It's Japanese and it's from the early '50s, but like it is you find so much of what has inspired everybody beyond just like the Magnificent Seven, which is a remake of it, or an American remake of it as a Western, or whatever. Like there's so much humanity in that movie. So many of the things in the movie are things that have influenced other people later. The It's also just a exciting movie and very intense, and you really feel for these characters by the end of it. It's people
Yeah.
sacrificing for something that seems relatively insignificant to protect this little town, this little village, who can't protect themselves. It's something that feels like, I mean, in a time where there's an enormous dark callousness to people in this,
Yes.
in our country, like a story about people who didn't have to stepping up to defend people who can't defend themselves is, and not have it be simplistic, have it be messy and difficult in some ways, and great storytelling. I think that there's a lot of value in that movie. So I'm going in all in on Seven Samurai. Although I would also say Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, North by Northwest, and Rear Window. The Ridley Scott's Alien, James Cameron's Aliens.
Yes.
The I there's just low. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark is basically my favorite movie ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly the movie that I could go back to endlessly. I'm a huge fan of Spielberg. I think that he's one of the most naturally gifted filmmakers, who ever lived, I think there's an enormous amount to learn from him and the way he stages things and shoots things. But there's obviously such a depth of humanity in his movies, and I recently rewatched E.T., which is a movie that people can dismiss as being corny or being a kids movie or whatever, but that movie is so human and genuine and so beautifully made that like
Yeah.
I cannot deny how I can come off like a cynical person, but I absolutely love like just the depth of humanity in that movie.
Yeah, and to caveat to your Seven Samurai. So there is an anime series called Samurai 7, which
Yes,
is, so I don't know you have watched that or not, but
I have not
if you
watched it. I'm aware of it though. I know of it. Yes.
yeah, so if you haven't, I would say watch that because it
Yeah.
definitely would give you that inspiration. Because I think they pulled that from the 1954 movie, but
Yeah.
just put it in an anime tone, but in the
Right.
future.
Right. Right.
So
Right. But it's like it's a story that people can get a lot. I mean, that I think people have gotten an enormous amount of inspiration, for over the years in general. And I think that like it's easy to not like. I think I didn't even watch that movie for quite a while, thinking I kind of know what this is. I've seen Magnificent Seven, or I've seen this, or I've seen that. But
mhm.
like the experience of actually, digging in and watching this super long samurai movie is I think is actually real valuable.
Absolutely, man. And I appreciate your time, Gabriel.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
thank you for being on the show. I'm pretty sure the Geek Corner appreciates you being on the show. And trust me, I've been pushing this book. I'm saying, hey man, y'all definitely to read this book because once I ran across it like upcoming books, I said I'm gonna get this. As soon as I got it, the next Saturday I was talking about it. I was like, yeah, y'all want to get this book. So,
Well,
y'all
that's
want to
great.
read. I know this.
I really appreciate it. I appreciate anybody who's picking up the book, and and certainly anybody who's talking about it. It's hard to get the word out for things these days in a lot of ways because of social media and all this stuff
Yeah,
being so messed up. But I feel like the response has been really good to the book. I'm really pleased with how people have responded to it, and I hadn't really put out a comic in the last couple of years, really since before the pandemic, apart from a couple
yeah.
little stories, and so it's been really gratifying for me for people to respond positively to the work. I'm really passionate about it. I'm glad people have enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And Geek Corner members, you guys go to your local comic book store and get this book physically. And if it just so happened to be sold out, you can always go on Kindle and Comixology
Yeah.
and buy this book digitally and for your own personal enjoyment. And Gabriel, do you have any social media handles so they can see upcoming projects or some of your artwork that you posting?
Mainly, it's my name, Gabriel Hardman, on Blue Sky, and I'm Gabriel Hardman Art on Instagram. So those are the places you can find me. And I've posted upcoming covers for these books, and I'll be announcing things. At some point, I will be offering my original art for it, and people can find out about that through there.
All right. And once again, thank you. And thank you to the Geek Corner members. So until next time, y'all, peace.